right, friends. Welcome to episode 0 or a personal intro. Welcome to Slow Tech. I'm your host, Adam Yasmin. I'm speaking to you from Los Angeles, where I happen to be in my kitchen and not a podcast studio because who has a budget for that? I figured I'd be pretty unabashed and honest with this first personal intro. I am not new to the world of podcasting. Um, I have an alive podcast that's in active hibernation called Wabi-sabi. I'm going to be drinking some tea with you while I do this intro. So I hope you would maybe if you're listening at some point, sometime, maybe you'll grab a cup of water or maybe a cup of tea for yourself as well. So yeah, I am not new to the world of podcasting, but it's been a minute. It's been, let's say, almost 3 years since I've been actively podcasting. Um, Wabi Sabi was a really fun and interesting adventure into DIY podcasting, especially you know I started it in the sort of winter spring of 2019 and kind of ventured into the pandemic and into lockdown. So that was really fascinating, and I had an amazing I had the amazing fortune of um, recording some phenomenal interviews with, namely, Audrey Tang, the now former digital minister of Taiwan, in the summer of 2020. Also with Shannon Lee, the founder and CEO of Bruce Lee Family Companies. With Mar Cabra, who was one of the lead researchers and journalists um, who co authored the Panama Papers. And Andrew Dunn, who is now a former head of innovation at Center for Humane Technology, has now founded the School of Wise Innovation, basically an ethical boot camp for technologists before they start to unleash swarms of AI. Really had a number of countless very memorable and really important interviews that I am really privileged to have been a part of. And in the last 3 years, 4 years, a lot of personal changes happened. I sustained a personal bankruptcy in the fall of 2020. Um, I It's funny, the day I decided to hire my bankruptcy attorney, really just because of an accumulation of unsecured debt that just became unmanageable. 6 months into lockdown. But the day I decided to hire a bankruptcy attorney was also the day I signed up for my Digital Wellness Institute certificate to be a certified digital well-being educator, and hired or started a new relationship with a Jungian analyst, a therapist who's really helped me in the last 3 years. That's a big personal reveal. But as you get to know me, there's going to be a lot of that. And so, in this kind of not even really trying to be a Mr. Rogers personal introduction of making this cup of tea together and being really honest and somewhat vulnerable with you, again, I didn't really plan on starting this podcast. I actually started to reach out to um, fascinating people who run amazing think tanks, people like Joe Hollier of one of the co-founders of Lightphone, recently befriended Will and Daisy, who founded dumbwireless.com. which is a really great, amazing new resource for people to explore dumb phones, dumb phone accessories, and um, cell phone plans specifically for dumb phones. Um, I think we need a new name for dumb phones. I mean, I'm cool with dumb phones, but it feels like we can do better than that. Anyway, uh, in my conversations and befriending these amazing human beings, again, fellow digital minimalists, people into emotional well being, that was actually one of the other certificates I pursued during lockdown after my digital wellness educator certificate was to pursue emotional well-being coaching with a then brand new startup out of the Bay Area called Wave has since um, made kind of they sort of forked their offering into two phenomenal offerings. One is to train emotional well-being coaches as part of an NBHWC, or National Board of Health and Wellness Educator. Um, uh, these are approved NBHWC training programs that help coaches test to become certified as a health and wellness coach, which actually I will be doing this fall, in the fall of 2024. So, with these two certificates, again, in 2020 and in 2021, I pulled back from my first podcast and started to refocus again on tea. I've been a 15-year student of Chinese tea culture, been really enamored with the culture. It's made a huge positive impact in my life personally. I've met some of the best human beings in my life, including my partner, some of my best friends, my mentor, um, through my adoration of tea. And it's a lot of these tea experiences and conversations that stem from having tea experiences that really now led me into back into the world of podcasting, except now it's with a different and specific purpose. I started Slow Tech as a podcast here on Substack, still in an act of playful experimentation. What does it mean to um, create a create and sustain and build a community of people who are passionate about digital minimalism, dumb phones, or scaling back their smartphone use, people who are into digital habits and digital well being, people who identify as humane technologists um, or responsible technologists, people like me who are parents to young kids. We have my partner and I have a daughter who is turning 9 this summer, who is not an active social media user, in any sense, but someone who uses a an iPad that we have delegated here at home for her. Someone who's going to be asking for a device in the very near future. So I started Slow Tech to be able to bring these conversations into one space and not just have these conversations for myself, but to share them with you. So whether you are a proactive parent who's raising a kid in a multiverse of screens, whether you are a humane technologist or responsible technologist, or you're curious about digital minimalism or digital well-being or tiny habits and focusing on the relationship that you are in, you and I are in a relationship with our devices, these devices that have a profound impact on our lives, on our day-to-day lives. We use these devices every day, basically, and how we use them, has a profound impact on other aspects of our lives. And I also created Slow Tech as a space to humanize fellow technologists through the experience of tea. And so let me kind of pull back here and slow myself down and do so with you. So I have this little tea set. So what I practice is called Gong Fu tea, or translated as tea with effort. Um, it's a traditionally Chinese tea brewing methodology and technology. It consists of several um, characters. Number one is a gaiwan. So I'm now recording this video, which I've never really done in a podcast before. But I'm using a gaiwan, which is a lidded cup. Put my loose leaf tea in the gaiwan. I rinse that leaf with hot water first to really activate the tea, to open up to unleash a lot of incredible aromas. By the way, shout out to my friends Standstill Tea here in LA. I'm going to be drinking red oolong today, which is a near full oxidized oolong from Alishan in Taiwan, which is grown at 1,300 meters. So it's a dark oolong, it's a mild roast, and it has flavor notes of cocoa, maple, and brown sugar. So shout out to Standstill Tea. And I'm also, actually, as a side note, thrilled to make a mild announcement that Slow Tech is soon to have a tea sponsor. I reached out to my friends at White 2 Tea, and they were really gracious in sponsoring Wabi-sabi, my last podcast, way back in 2019. And they've agreed to sponsor Slow Tech. So Slow Tech soon to have another official tea sponsor, which is super exciting. I'm super excited to be soon this summer. We'll be receiving um, some tea samples that I will be sharing with guests. There will be episodes here in LA that I'll be recording in person with my guests, and we'll be brewing tea as well. I also, one of the things I want to be setting up for paid subscribers here um, in the Slow Tech Substack is to arrange for tea events, in real life tea events. So stay tuned for those announcements that will be made. Once you subscribe, whether you subscribe for free or you do the $5 a month, you will be getting information, and paid subscribers will be getting opportunities that will be specific to paid subscribers. So, but I digress. Um, so I've introduced you to the Gaiwan, which is the lidded cup. The Gaiwan gets decanted into the fairness pitcher. The fairness pitcher makes sure that everyone who drinks tea from this pot gets the same tea at the same temperature and the same consistency. And then I've decanted from the fairness pitcher into my cup, which unsurprisingly matches the wall here in our kitchen. I'm getting that maple sugar and these sweet floral notes on the aromas. Yeah, incredible tea. Really flavorful, and getting that cocoa, almost like cacao shell, like cocoa nibs in a way. A really, really that slightest amount of astringency in a cocoa nib kind of way. Beautiful tea, beautiful oolong. A lot of my oolongs and teas I drink in general are from China. So it's really, really special to be, as I continue to learn about tea as a lifelong student, expand my palate into Taiwanese oolongs. So again, shout out to Standstill. So I've given you like the the 3-step sequential flow in Gong Fu tea, or what I love to call slow tea. And so this slow tea, this Gong Fu tea, occurs in this flow state, this state of entrainment, where uh, it's a cyclical process. It's a recursive process. You know, we steep, we decant, we drink, we imbibe, we experience. Yes, there's a flavor profile that consists of smells, aromas, tastes. There's also a body feel that can be described when you're drinking, really any tea of substantial quality. Um, and that's really the purpose. The purpose of drinking tea is to drink tea, is to experience it, is to experience yourself drinking tea. Um, it's really one of the ways I speak to this very concept, this philosophy of slow tech, of slowing down intentionally, of introducing a kind of pragmatic level of mindfulness and imbuing that into our day to day kind of mundane lives. Um, there's a better way of saying that. I don't mean to say that life is mundane. I mean to say that life consists of mundane moments and also profound, ecstatic, euphoric, emotional, devastating, grotesque, beautiful, shocking moments, all the things. So, tea is one reliable vehicle to be able to become aware of all those states, all those emotional states. Not to mention, it's a reliable vehicle for exploring minimalism, screen free breaks, digital detoxes. Um, it's a reliable vehicle and experience for me that I've experienced and that I share with others, especially teams and organizations. Um, to be a refuge, to be an oasis away from screens. Yes, I recognize the irony that I'm staring into this screen as I'm talking about not using screens and drinking tea. Irony is not beyond me. But what I mean by screens is really how I refer to screen time is like just a scrolling, uh, really passive consumption type of an experience where the reality of scrolling in an infinite scroll starts to very quickly sort of turn us off from our natural state, our emotional state. We tend to, I've tended to, uh, when I catch myself, let's say doom scrolling, for example, um, in particular the last, 8+ months of um, the war in Gaza, um, how that hits close to home as a Middle Eastern identifying person. I found myself doom scrolling a lot, and it's that ability to catch myself doom scrolling, to catch myself sweeping my emotions under the proverbial rug for the sake of consuming content incessantly in order to be informed, in order to form an opinion. All these things, all these sort of bear traps that we find ourselves in across social media platforms. Um, and I don't mean to say it's not important to be informed. It's very important to be informed. However, what I'm suggesting is that once you catch yourself doom scrolling, that it's a flag, it's an opportunity to step away, to put it down, put the phone down, maybe put it on airplane mode for 5 minutes, and to locate yourself, locate where you are in the world. Look around, observe. Am I inside? Am I outside? Am I at home, in the office? Am I standing in line, in queue at the supermarket? What's happening? What am I feeling? Am I feeling detached from my rage or sadness? Do I need to talk to someone like a friend or a loved one or a qualified mental health professional? Do I need to take a breath and be able to start to articulate and experience what I'm actually feeling right beneath the surface? All these things that it sounds a bit ridiculous to talk about in this context, in this particular type of transmission. But it's really all about a certain kind of habit formation. And um, I think it's increasingly important work, and it's work that I'm passionate about. So that's also something I'm going to be bringing into this podcast. So, in between interviews with inspiring people who I'd like to introduce you to, I will also be doing these kinds of solo, um, or maybe with friends, and colleagues, but solo transmissions, audio essays, um, dare I say, brief moments of education, to be able to offer to us, to all of us, the ability to change, to fine tune these little habits, um, to kind of continue to explore slow tech as a lifestyle, as a philosophy, as a concept, as a kind of pragmatic and modular thing that we like a box of Legos that we add to together. I'm really curious to know what you think of what I'm talking about, what you experience, how you would like to experience it differently, what you would like to work on, and make this a communal effort. And so that's why I'm nesting this podcast within Substack, is that you can join the Substack and comment and make suggestions and ask questions, and those questions can be addressed in future episodes. Or maybe even outside of episodes, there will be opportunities to have a monthly virtual meetup. Or again, if you're in the LA area, invite you for an in-person tea event, or perhaps from traveling, um, near your city, there could be events there as well. So in the intro, I talked about what slow tech can be, and I'm really excited about it. This is a really, really exciting and dynamic time to be talking about different aspects of digital well-being. And I define digital well-being in this sort of kinetic way of, it's a constant process of going from using tech mindlessly to using it mindfully. And there's a lot of nuance that goes with that. But for the sake of a little bit of brevity and not making this an hour-long rant, I want to, cap this intro at around half an hour, which is roughly another 5 minutes. I want to have another sip of this tea, because real tea is tea that you can re-steep and experience over these successive steeps. Not to say that there's fake tea, but real tea, I mean what I mean by real tea is loose leaf tea that has a story, that the journey of that tea from point of origin to your cup or your gaiwan, it has a traceable story. Um, there are lots of people involved in that. You can zoom in and slow that journey down. You're learning a lot about terroir and growing conditions and who the farmers are or the manufacturers are, much like how we approach slow tech. we start to inquire about our habits, the way we relate to these devices, how to maybe do things differently, how to infuse a little bit of minimalism, this sort of less is more approach. Do we want to maximize our screen time, or do we want to minimize the screen time, or do we want to focus on quality versus quantity? Not all screen time is created equal. um, as a parent, I find it really humbling to recognize that as much as parents are focusing on the mental health of their youth, their kids, their tweens, their teens, especially here in the States and in Europe, in regards to their tech use, right? Um, it's really important to recognize that we as parents, as caregivers, we are models of healthy tech use for our kids. Just stop and digest that for a moment. There's a lot to be explained in that statement, and I would love to explain it to you in future conversation. But that's something that I think about. I think about a lot of these things, and again, it's now been the accumulation of these thoughts over some time, about 2 years, that led me into starting this podcast. So, thank you for being here. I hope it's been a moment to pause, to maybe engage in some self-reflection, to hopefully be inspired to subscribe to this podcast, to join the Substack, to join the conversation, um, and to engage in a way that feels comfortable for you, whether it's passive and you just want to listen to it and fall asleep. That's wonderful. Or if you want to ask a question, leave a comment. Um, you can do that as well. So I leave you with that. I will be fine tuning this experience as we go. Again, I want to give a shout out to Standstill Tea, my friends here in LA, for this tea sample of red oolong that I'm drinking with you today in this first personal intro episode. Also to White2 Tea for becoming our official podcast tea sponsor. I also want to give a shout out to my friend Christopher Bear, whose music I've been able to utilize as the soundtrack to this podcast. I will put the links to these in the show notes so you can learn more about all of them. And I'll see you next week.